Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today, we are thinking about aging gracefully. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, aging gracefully. This is a topic that we are all really thinking about. How do we do it? What does it take to actually age gracefully? I mean, goodness, the questions are endless. So, thankfully, I have Maricia here who's going to help us think about this in another way. So, thank you so much, Maricia, for coming on to my show. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Aging gracefully. What does that make you think about?
I just talked to some people and we talked about what it means. Has it changed its meaning over the years? I think to me, aging gracefully means continuing what you like to do, but you may have to modify it. Living life to its fullest. I don't see anything that you cannot do that you've been doing, but I think aging gracefully is just modifications. That's how I see it. I don't see it like people used to see it years ago. I see it as modifications. We are a different generation. I'm at the tail end of the boomers. And
Mhm.
so we're a different generation. When I was teaching at the community college, I would tell the students, I said, look at the advertisement. They now know that people who are boomers and a little bit younger now have their retirement money and their investment money. So they've kind of honed in on us. Whereas before, you were going to buy a car and then you were going to die. That was it. So you may, after retirement, you may buy 5, 6, 7 cars. You never know. And then people aren't waiting. They do now. So I think aging gracefully is modifying.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think that is something that we don't think about when it comes to our concept of aging gracefully. You know what I mean? People just think about aging gracefully. Well, don't do Botox. Don't like do plastic surgery. That's the first thing that people relate it to. But when you put it in that perspective about modifying, that's when you add the grace. I swear, that's when you add the grace because in the actuality, you do modify. You modify your clothing accordingly. You modify the way you eat. You modify the way you sleep. You modify all these things about you so that it can accommodate to the period that you are currently in now. And I think people don't think about that and they get stuck. And why do you think people get stuck?
The media. I think it's the media. I really do. And I'll go back to when you said that about Botox. A group of us have been working with a trainer for the last probably 20 years. We've all aged together. But
Okay.
one thing she told us was, she said, sometimes it's not your outward look, how you look, it's the things that you do, the way you walk. And I would always go back to Joan Rivers. She had all the work done, but she walked. She took those little bitty steps. And I said, maybe she's not working out with a trainer or something like that. But I think we've always modified. We modify for our body types. One of my favorite shows was Say Yes to the Dress, and everybody would go
Yes, I love it.
they would go in and they'd see a picture and they'd want that dress and it didn't fit their body type.
Yeah.
I like the guy that would come. He said, I have something for you. And you would look really pretty. So we've always modified what we do.
Yeah.
I don't even like the word aging. I call it maturing.
Yes. Yes, exactly. I think it is maturing because you are evolving, you are growing, you are learning. And if you are learning, who's to say you're not maturing, right? So you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Who's to say you're not maturing? Who's to say you're not modifying? And I
Mhm.
think those two hand in hand, that is the perfect way to see it is Eminem, maturing and modifying. That is the greatest way to see it. So my question to you is what did you realize? When did you realize that you had to start embracing your age differently?
It's a funny story. Before
Tell
I
me.
was at the community college, I worked in public school.
Okay.
So when I first came to the school, I was probably about 22. So
Okay.
that meant that if I taught seniors, I had some that were as old as 18, maybe some that might have been 19, but wouldn't have been many, but a lot that were 17 and 18. And so they had a meeting one day and they invited me to come because they had a scholarship. Now, this was like 2 or 3 years ago, well, a little longer than that. And so I decided I would go, but you know how you don't have your hair done or anything. So I put on my alternative hair to go. And I came home and I told my husband, I said, I took off the alternative hair and my hair was red because I was still coloring. And I told him, I said, I'm going to have to let this go. He said, why? I said, because my students had gray hair. And I was the only one that didn't have gray hair showing. So, they were basically 4, 5, maybe 6 years younger than me, but they
Yeah.
had all embraced it. So I said, just let it go. And it
Yeah.
does take not courage, it just takes getting used to. It
Yeah.
takes getting used to. I had an old beautician tell me one time that if you grade early, it came in pretty and white. But if you grade older, you had to kind of work it. So I'm having to kind of work it. But it is what it is, and I've just embraced it.
Yeah, I think that's something that we all have to swallow that cup. You know what I mean? We all have to take a sip of that cup and just embrace it, embrace the changes, because that's what it basically is, embracing the changes that are bound to happen. You know what I mean? And when we're young, we embrace the fact that we're going to go through puberty. We're going to embrace the fact that one day we got to take this score, this test that's going to determine our lives. You know what I mean? With the SATs and ACTs, and then we go to college and that determines, you know what I mean? We're always reaching these landmarks, I mean, check marks of age, but in reality it's just growth with life. You know what I mean? It's just maturing with life. And when we start thinking of aging in the grander scope of things, that's the goal. The goal is to get old. The goal is to not die young. The goal is to get old and to embrace that life lesson that come with it. So that when somebody asks you an opinion that seems like a simple question, it's not simple because you have an in-depth understanding of life that people don't value anymore. And that's why I appreciate people who are well aged, because that's how I like to say them. I appreciate people who are well aged because they have some type of wisdom that I just don't have, because they lived a life that provided them understanding that they can now bestow upon me and upon so many others. And when we start to appreciate the well aged in our community, man, I think we would have a better outcome of our future. I mean, that's how I see it. I mean, for you, how do you see that?
I see it the same way because I had a sorority sister and she passed during COVID, but she was 93, I think. Up until then, before COVID, she had just gotten out of her stilettos because she loved to dance. She loves to do line dances and swing out. But up until then, she was still probably in her stilettos. And then she might have gone down to a 2 or 3 inch heel. And she would always tell us, do what you can while you can, because you never know
Absolutely.
what tomorrow is going to bring. And she was one of those people. And as much as it hurt our heart that she passed, in a way, we were kind of not glad, but we didn't get to see her get sick or anything before, when
Yeah.
they called us and told us she went to the hospital one day. But she was that way. And I knew her 50 odd years ago, because when I was getting in the sorority, she was one of the first people I saw when I went over, and I looked at her and said, I want to be like her. She never changed her outlook on life. It was always she was going to do. And
Mhm.
sometimes, you when you think about it, like you said, talk to people who are older. They've lived it.
Yeah.
They've lived it, and if they're honest, they will tell you some of the pitfalls, because we all wanted to stay young. I can remember going out with some friends, and we went to Oklahoma to the
Okay.
casino, and we took my
Oh.
oldest daughter, and
Uh-huh.
so they still wanted to see her ID, and she was angry. I said, one day they're gonna tell you, just come on in. I said,
Hmm.
so, they're not going to want to see an ID. Then you're going to be a little bit upset. And we all like people to say, oh, you look younger than your age. But what is that? How are we supposed to look?
Yeah.
Everybody looks differently. So I think it's, it's a pass now. You can act the way you want to. There's certain things I'm not going to do.
Yeah.
You can basically work till you want to. I've heard people say, well, this person needs to retire because some young person needs that job. And I'm always like, well, they got a job, so maybe they need to go out and find, how to get a job. So it's just a little bit different. I'll give you another funny story. I went to buy
That's
a pair of jeans,
okay.
and this was years ago. And I was at the store, and a young man was helping me, and he would bring me jeans, and he would throw them over the thing, throw them over the. So then I got tickled, and I kept throwing them back. No, no. He said, "Oh, I know. You want those lady jeans." I said, "That's the one." I don't know what he thought lady jeans were, but I was like, "That's the one I want." He brought them, and he sold me a pair of jeans.
There
So
you
life is
go.
just it's just getting it's just I hate to keep saying it is what it is, but it's a progression. It is a
It
progression,
is.
you know.
It is. I mean, we can't deny the fact that it is what it is. I mean, that statement holds value throughout time. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's going to hold value for infinity and beyond because it's true. It is what it is at times, and sometimes we get caught up. The individuals get caught up in the moment of what we see or what we hear or what's going on, and we forget to and we lose focus. You know what I mean? We get distracted. In all actuality, we just have to focus and remember what we can control in our now, in our position, in our community, and where we are positioned in earth at this exact moment. Because where we are at this exact moment, that's where it holds so much value.
That
So
is.
much value. And I loved when you said, when people say you look younger than what you are, because when you were saying that and you were talking about how your friend's 93 and she just died around COVID. And I'm like, COVID was 5 years, about no, now going on 4 to 5 years.
Mhm.
And she was 93. So how old does that make you? And I'm just like, it doesn't even matter how old she is because at the end of the day, she looks gorgeous. You look gorgeous for your age. But then you were like, when people say that to me, how am I supposed to look? And it's like, you're darn tootin' right. How are you supposed to look? Because I feel like people say that to me too, like, oh, you look a lot younger or you look
Mhm.
good for your age. And I'm just like, how am I supposed to look? You know what I mean? So it's just like you made me put that into perspective that I never really caught before because I'm so used to doing it to people. Like I figure it's like a compliment. But in actuality, it's like what it makes me feel like you're questioning me. Like, what am I supposed to look older? Am I supposed to be well, how am I supposed this is just
That's
how I am. This is just my genes. This is how I
it.
embrace life. This is how I took care of myself. Some people don't take care of themselves, some people do, and it comes down to how soon are you willing to start loving yourself? You know what I
That
mean?
you said you hit the nail on the head. You have to love where you are. You can't go back.
Hmm.
My mother used to always tell me that you can't buy your children what you did not have. So you know, and so you can't go back. You learn to love yourself as you progress. I look at myself and I see things that I didn't see before.
Yeah.
You know, I weigh about the same amount that I did when I was younger, but stuff has kind of shifted this way and that way. So it's not,
Yeah.
I might keep that in the closet just to remind me, but I will never wear it again.
Yeah.
I know some people that will.
Yeah.
I know some people that will, and it's if they're happy about it, that's fine. And some
Right?
people pull it off. Some people can
Yeah.
pull it off. You know, Tina Turner, toward the end of her touring career, she didn't dance the whole time. She still had good looking legs, but she didn't dance the whole time. And her heels had come down a little bit. You know, they weren't as tall as they used to be. So she just modified.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great way to keep us thinking about this topic. Goodness gracious. I had such a great conversation. Such a good time. Thank you so much. If what can be some lasting words of wisdom that you can leave us off with to keep on thinking?
Live your life the way you think it should be lived. There is no mold or roadway to tell you how you're supposed to mature. You may go left and your best friend may go right, but it's okay. Everybody is different. You know, it's you if you feel like you still want to work out, work out. If you don't, it's your life. If you want to dye your hair, if you want to cut it all off, it's your life. So be your authentic self. Don't worry about anybody else.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, please listen and think about this. Just stop what you're doing, pause and think about it because we need to start thinking about this now. You know what I mean? Now, at this very age, whatever age that you are that's listening, because this is important. This is about embracing. This is about change. This is about just living the life that you know that you deserve because you're being authentically true to who you are. So thank you so much for coming on to my show and sharing this with me. And if anybody would like to know more about her and what she has to offer the world, please check her out on my website. You can find her lovely photo just You just click it and it'll go access to her website so that you can find all the great things that she has to offer the world and so that you can keep on thinking. So, with that being said, bye.